when he left, he was a kahil. He was an extremely old man. He disappears. The people, they lose Salih. They don't know what's going on. Suddenly, somebody appears to the people, and he tells them his big secret. He says to them, I am Salih. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم المهديين وسلم تسليما السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear sister Tiffany.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear Father.
Good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me back today.
And thank you for joining me. So today we're going to speak about the mysterious case of the Prophet Salih.
Okay.
The Prophet Salih is a prophet whose name appears in Islam, but it also appears in Christianity and Judaism. There is a trace for this prophet. His name does appear. And he was one of the 124,000 prophets and messengers. He was one of the 313 messengers that were sent to a people. And it is also known that he is a messenger that was sent to the Arabs. Okay? And basically, the Prophet Salih went to his people and he called them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he warned them also, of a punishment that would befall if they continued to do their evil ways. The people at the time, they didn't believe in the Prophet Salih, and they asked in order that they believe that he perform a miracle for them.
Okay.
They were a people that lived around big stones, and they used to carve in the stones different pictures and houses and things like this, and different statues. And one of the things that they used to carve a lot was the camels, because camels was a part of their everyday life. They considered it to be a kind of godly or holy creature, and they used to carve him a lot in the stone. They didn't worship per se the camels, but they used to revere them.
Okay.
And so the Prophet Salih does exactly that. He extracts out of the stone a camel which was huge in size as a miracle. The camel steps out of the stone and it becomes alive, and it is a gigantic camel. And Salih tells his people that basically this is the camel of God. It was a sign for you, and you're not allowed to harm it. And you have to safeguard its sanctity. And he establishes some rules by the command of God pertaining to this camel. One of those rules was that on one day, the camel would drink from the lake that they had, or the source of water that they had. But every time the camel would drink, he would finish all of the water. And for that reason, there would be one day that the camel could drink from the water, and another day the people would drink.
Okay.
And the drinking of the camel was, he would finish up all of the water on his day, and so the people would be left with nothing to drink. So on the day that the camel drank, the people would have to drink from the milk that was produced by the camel. Okay? And then on the next day, the camel would abstain from drinking from the water in order to give a chance that the people drink from the water. And so these were the rules that were set out. You can't kill the camel, slaughter the camel, or the descendants of the camel. You had to safeguard them because these belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you also had to respect their sanctity in regards to the certain days where they were supposed to drink versus when the people were supposed to drink. In exchange, the camel would provide sustenance for the people, which was better than what they drank, which was this this milk from the camel. So that was the warning of the Prophet Salih, and that's what he told the people. Now, there's a couple of interesting things that end up happening with Salih and with his story, and that is that according to one narration, what happens is that there appears among the people a person whom is described as being blue, red, blonde. Okay?
Okay.
A blue, red, blonde person who doesn't have an origin. He's the son of fornication. He appears and he's determined that he's going to kill the camel and disregard the warnings of the Prophet Salih. And so one day he decides to do that, and he goes and he strikes the camel once, and then he strikes it again, and he manages to kill the camel. The descendant, the seed of the camel, ends up running away and going into hiding as a result of that. And so the people, they lose the camel, and they lose the descendant of the camel as well.
Wow.
Okay. This results obviously in a breaking of the covenant or the oath, the commandment, which God had given to these people, not to harm the camel. And it results in the end in the punishment coming down and wiping away the people.
Okay.
Okay. And that's interesting. That's extremely interesting. And the reason why this particular narration is interesting is because the enemy of the camel is somebody who's described as blue, red, blonde.
Yes.
And we don't find this description appearing in the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, except when it is describing the character of the Sufyani.
Yes.
The Sufyani also is described as being blue, red, blonde.
Yes.
And the guy who kills the camel of Salih is described as being blue, red, blonde.
Extremely fascinating.
It is fascinating. Yeah. And it's also fascinating because the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, in another narration, they state that the likeness of Salih and his camel is found in Ali ibn Abi Talib, and it's also found in the Qa'im. And we know that the Sufyani appears in the time of the Qa'im, and that he's the arch nemesis of the Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, of the Amani, of the Qa'im, and he's described as that. And you have the character who kills Salih as being described as that. And you have narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that describe and compare Ali ibn Abi Talib to the camel itself, that he was the camel of Salih. And so here you have this example where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the example of Salih, and Imam Ali alayhi salam is the example of the camel. And just like Salih told the people that this is God's camel, the Prophet Muhammad tells the people, this is God's vicegerent, this is an imam from him, this is Ali ibn Abi Talib, this is my successor, my vicegerent. And just like they struck the camel on the head and killed him, they struck Ali ibn Abi Talib on the head and killed him. And just like the punishment comes down on the people in the time of Salih, the punishment comes down on the Muslim nation. And the narration state that it's because of their transgression against Muhammad and the family of Muhammad that they lose the Quran, they lose the religion, they lose, they become like the Israelites lost in the labyrinth or wandering around in the desert. And just like the descendant of the camel ends up running away, having to go into hiding, having to, it ends up, escaping and being absent. You have over here Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, who's a descendant of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He also ends up going into an absence due to the oppression and the attempts of the Abbasids and the Muslim nation to kill Imam al-Mahdi Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, and he was in an absence for a very long time. The camel disappears in the time of Salih, the people lose him. Over here also, he disappears and the people lose him.
Wow. The parallels between the two, the stories are really fascinating. It reminds me of something that we've discussed many times on this show, which is the study in religious studies. People, they look at the New Testament and they look back at the Old Testament and they see that the Old Testament has many events that foreshadow the events that happened in the New Testament. It's called the study of typology. And this just reminds me of that because it's understood that these scriptures are recorded for that reason, as a warning for the people so that they can see the parallels in the future time. So the fact that this event was recorded and it's a clear warning and foreshadowing for the people that this is something to look out for and it's going to come back and be fulfilled in the future.
Yeah. So the people, what did they want? They wanted to usurp the rights of the camel. They wanted access to the water on the days that the camel was supposed to drink from, even though that was its right. And as such, the people usurped the rights of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, which was the imamate and the ruling over the Muslim nation. And so in both cases, the camel and the family of Muhammad, they're slaughtered. Okay? Now, the story doesn't end there. And there's another very important aspect that takes place, okay?
Okay.
So before the punishment comes down, Salih, he disappears from his people.
Yeah.
Okay? He goes away. And the people have no more access to Salih. And the narrations state that when he left, he was a kahil. He was an extremely old man. An old man that was, above the age of 65.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a good-looking man. He disappears. The people, they lose Salih. They don't know what's going on. Suddenly, somebody appears to the people. And when this person goes to the nation of Salih, he finds that the nation of Salih had broken down into 3 different groups.
Okay.
Okay? A group that was firm upon faith in Salih. So a group that was arguing for the sanctity of the camel and were insisting on abiding by the rules that Salih had left for them, even though he was no longer there amongst them.
Okay.
A group that was in doubt.
Okay.
They at first believed, but now because Salih has been gone for such a long time, they're not really sure anymore.
Okay.
If this whole thing with God and the camel and the water and all this stuff, like they're not sure, is this really like a divine promise or was it magic or what it was? They're not sure.
Okay. Shaky faith.
Shaky faith. And there was a third group which had totally disbelieved in Salih.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were no longer members of the faith.
Okay.
So what happens is that the man, he first goes to the people of the shaky faith and he tells them his big secret. He says to them, I am Salih.
Well, okay. I mean, how did they react?
Well, they were shocked and they said to him, what are you talking about? You're Salih. And they said, Salih came to us looking in a different way than you looked. So how can we believe that you are Salih? And so they disbelieved in him.
Okay.
Okay? So this shaky group, they were dealing with the apparent. They were looking for physical signs. Their faith depended on that. Just like the faith of the people depended in the beginning on them seeing a miracle, their faith now depends on their faith in the prophethood of Salih. And in this new individual that was claiming that he was Salih, it depended on whether or not he physically looked like Salih who came to them before.
Okay.
Then he goes to the people who disbelieved, and he says to them, I am Salih, and you guys need to return back to your oath. As soon as he says this, the people who disbelieved, they began to strike him and hit him, and abuse him. And they thought to themselves, my goodness, look at this Dajjal, look at this liar. This guy has no place amongst us. And they reject him immediately.
Okay.
Then he finally goes to the believing group of people. And he says to them, hey guys, I'm Salih. I'm the prophet who came to you before. They think amongst one another and they speak amongst one another, the believing group. And then they say to this man, they say, look, we recognize that God can appear in whatever shape, way, or form that he wills. Okay? And he can make anything happen. And so the idea itself of you being Salih, who came back to us in a new form, we cannot reject this. Okay? There's no religious basis for rejecting you or accepting you based only on your physical appearance.
Okay.
But tell us about the things which Salih told us about. So they test him. Okay?
I see.
And he tells them, he says, there is the camel, and the camel came out of the rock, and you are not to harm the camel, and there is a day, a specific day, and he tells them about it that belongs to the camel to drink from, and then you guys have a day that you drink from. When he informed them of this, they accepted him and they pledged allegiance to him, and they believed in Salih, who now looks totally different than the old Salih. And I think that's really important. And in there are a lot of lessons that we have to look at and examine.
Okay.
Because this story now is showing us that you don't believe in the vicegerent of God or the messenger of God based on the physical appearance. You can't judge him if he was ugly or unattractive, like so many of the other prophets and messengers who had come before, such as Socrates, for example, or Job when he was in a state of extreme sickness. You cannot base your faith on their physical appearance or condition. You have to base your faith in an individual only on their claim. Does their claim have substance? Does their claim match the claims of the previous prophets and messengers? If it matches, if the substance that they come with is truth, and you know it's truth because every other prophet and messenger came with her. Rather, if they came with a claim, that was matching the same claim of a previous hujjah, and on top of that, they're saying that they are that previous hujjah, but they don't look like what that previous hujjah looks like that you physically saw and knew, you have to believe in them.
Wow.
And I think that this example is evident in the Gospels when you have Jesus who looked in a particular way before the event of the crucifixion. And then you have Jesus appearing to the disciples and to the apostles in many totally different ways, yes. Whether it was the gardener or the fisherman, yes. And they don't recognize him in his appearance, but they recognize the substance of his speech.
Yes, exactly. It's only when he speaks to them that they realize that that's who they're dealing with, that it's actually Jesus, even though they don't recognize him with their eyes.
And then he becomes a proof upon them, and they're obliged to follow him. So the physical appearance is disregarded. And we have here in the story of Salih and in the story of Jesus, the messenger appearing to them in different forms.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's a very important lesson that's preserved in the Bible, in the Quran. And that this is something that can happen, and it is not something that people can deny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, that's the message that, because now we have these narrations that state that the example of Salih is in, and is in the Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and also in the Qa'im. So if we're living in the time of the Qa'im, or even for those who don't believe in this dawah yet, but they're anticipating the coming of the Qa'im or the Mahdi, they have to pay attention to this fact, because clearly Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, they wanted us to look into the story of Salih. And if we did, and if we understood it and we believed in it, we would be better prepared for the events that would take place in the time of the Mahdi or the Qa'im.
Wow.
And I think here what's happening in our dawah is a fulfillment of that very narration, because the people expected that Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, who was born 1200 years ago, that he would be the riser that they were waiting for.
Yes.
And you have other people who were in the dawah of Ahmed al-Hassan al-Yamani pre-2007, who also believed, even though it was not explicitly stated, but they believed that Ahmed al-Hassan was the Qa'im or the riser of the family of Muhammad.
Yes. Yeah.
And so for it to say that the example of Salih is to be found in the Qa'im means that there must be somebody who would come to the people, who would say to them, I am the Qa'im of the family of Muhammad, even though they were expecting that the Qa'im be a different person.
Right, look different.
Looks different.
Yeah.
And speaks maybe differently. His voice is different.
Yeah.
But the substance of what he comes with is exactly the same. And that's what we have in this dawah, and that's what I came with.
Yes.
I came declaring and saying that I am the Qa'im of the family of Muhammad, even though they were expecting that it be Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, and even though they expected it, other people expected it to be Ahmed al-Hassan alayhi salam, and even though we have now the Shia broken down into 3 groups, just like they were in the time of Salih, and we have a group that is still waiting on Muhammad ibn Hassan, and a group that thinks that Ahmed al-Hassan is the Qa'im, I'm saying that I am the Qa'im. And what I come with is the same of that which Ahmed al-Hassan came with, and every Imam and Prophet and Messenger came before. Ahmed al-Hassan, he came with the banner that was written on it, Al-Bay'a Lillah, a white banner with green writing that says on it, the supremacy is to Allah. And I have come carrying the black banner, which is actually prophesied in the narrations that the Qa'im, the Mahdi, will come with a banner that's raised, that's black, that's written in the Al-Bay'a Lillah.
Yes.
I came forward exactly like Ahmed al-Hassan, confirming him and his name in the will as Ahmed, and declaring that my name is Abdullah, and it is also in the will, and he sent me as well.
Yes.
I came forward with the knowledge that he came with, and confirming his knowledge and bringing forward other knowledge that nobody has been able to argue against, the same proofs of the da'wah of Ahmed al-Hassan and the da'wah of the Imams from the family of Muhammad alayhi salam, I also came with. And here I am declaring to the people that I am Salih. Wow.
Wow. It gives me goosebumps. I think the matter is extremely clear, and I think that obviously it's no, it's not by accident that this narration, that this story about Prophet Salih was recorded, and that it was explicitly stated that it is something that is going to be repeated in the time of the Qa'im. So it is obviously a story that we have to look deeply into and to fully understand the meaning of it and the significance of it. And I think that it's clear that it has been fulfilled, that it has, that it has come back in this time that you the way that you have explained the parallels between your relationship to Ahmed al-Hassan and to Muhammad ibn al-Hassan al-Askari is very clear. It's very clear that it has been fulfilled in you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. And this was such a fascinating topic. Thank you so much for everything that you've taught me today.
God bless you.